everybody, my name is Lejay, um, and this video has been a long time coming actually, and I've just kind of been scared to make it because I didn't want to jinx myself or anything, and I've just been kind of nervous about it, but I think it'd be a good thing for me to make so I can look back on it in the future, after everything is said and done, and maybe it might even help some other people who might have these issues. And excuse my setup, I don't really have like a big space to film, so from time to time you will see my little fur babies in the background. Okay, and I have some notes just in case I might ramble on too long, because like I said, I don't have a lot of space and stuff, so I don't have a lot of equipment, so I'm really just filming this on my phone. So hopefully I'm able to get things done. So this is going to be an update or slash where I am now. Oh, how did I get here? Right now I am 6 months pregnant, 25 weeks today actually, with fibroids. And I just wanted to make this video because I know it might help somebody, and it might be good for me to look back on later on and see what I overcame or what I went through to get here. So I'm just going to start off with some few points. I got my period, my menstrual, when I was 15 years old. Compared to everybody else, it was really late. I didn't think it would take that long. We were waiting, but I was very athletic when I was a kid. I, did track, gymnastics, just very athletic, So I did know that it might be delayed, but I didn't think it would be that delayed. I hit puberty really late. I want to say maybe around, like I said, 15, 16. I really started getting like actual development. Is when I was in 8th grade, I gained the weight of puberty. Like I got bigger. I was always skinny. I gained the weight of puberty, but I never got a period. So, that was a little concerning. My mom was a little, worried, like, hey, what's going on? Is she okay? And we went to the doctor a few times, and they said everything was fine. We just were waiting. And it's actually funny because I don't know if you guys know about this book by, I think it's from Beverly Cleary. I don't, but it's called Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. And it's a story about a girl who's waiting to hit puberty. She's trying to get her period, and all her friends have it and everything. So she doesn't feel very like, like a woman grown up like everybody else. And at the end of the book, she gets it. It's really good. It really helped me a lot at that time because she's like the same age as me in the book and everything. But anyway, I got it really late, and I got it and I said, what was I waiting for this for? I had no idea the blessing that I had at first. So I always had really bad periods. And when I think bad, I mean like, just to me, I think every woman thinks their period is heavy because they don't, a woman doesn't know really, I guess, how much another woman is bleeding. So I feel like they always think they're having a heavy period. But for me, I really did feel like my period was heavy. I always had to use the Always pads, the purple ones, the overnight. That was like my only pad. I couldn't do the lights and the mediums and nope, extra long, purple, overnight, heavy duty. That's the only pad I could use. But we started noticing that my period wasn't coming on like normally. I would go maybe a month sometimes. It was always a surprise. Like, it didn't come on monthly. It was every 2 months or maybe every month and a half or every 3. It was just very irregular. But that was regular for me, So, but as far as I could tell, I didn't have any other issues going on. So my mom didn't really think much of it. So when I became sexually active, which, whatever, when I became sexually active, my mother, she recognized, she was like, hey, you're getting on birth control. This is what it is. And that's a story for another day. We'll talk about that another day. But so she put me on the birth control, but it really wasn't for, really, I think it was because of sex, but it really wasn't because of that. I had sex at one time and then I didn't have sex again. And so we really just did it because I was so irregular, so I stayed on it. And when I stayed on it, I was on it for about 10 years on and off. So I got on birth control around 18, and so just like all the way up to 28 I was on birth control. So I was on the patch because I couldn't see myself taking the pills or taking the getting a shot. I just didn't want to do that. I didn't want to get the implant. At the time, I think the IUDs weren't like a really big thing. It was just mostly like, oh, the patch, the shot, the pills, or just, condoms, whatever. Because I was using condoms anyway, but it really was just for me to regulate my cycle because I didn't have a regular period. So when I was on birth control, it was great. I knew exactly when my period was coming on, exactly how long it lasted. It was on point. You wear the patch, you change it every week, and on the 4th week of the month, you would take it off, you have your period, and you start all over again. It was great, but not so great. The patch actually like broke me out a lot. Like it broke my skin out. It made me really itchy on the area where I would put it, and like it would leave like burns. Like it would leave burns. I guess the adhesive in the patch, it just left burns, and it wasn't very comfortable. Sometimes it would come off, whatever. And so finally, when I got up to maybe like 26 years old, I was like, hey, I want to change my birth control. And at this point, the copper IUD was like really popular. And I was like, hey, no hormones. That's what I want. Because, when you're on hormones, I think sometimes you gain weight, you lose weight, you eat more, I wasn't as active, so I started gaining weight. I was about 100 and maybe 150 to 160, like from teenage to 26. I was always around that age. I'm that weight. And then when I hit like 30 kilos in my 30s, I started gaining more weight. So then I was like 190. So to me, that was like the biggest I ever was. And I was like, hey, I think, I'm ready to switch up. And so my doctor at the time, my primary care, I did not like her very much. They kind of just stuck me with her. I didn't ask for her. I told her I wanted to get the IUD. She would not give me the IUD because she said, oh, well, you're 26 and you might want to have a baby soon. So, no, you cannot have the IUD. So I didn't really think much of it. I didn't think they could tell you no. I mean, I didn't know they couldn't tell you no until later on when I got a little older. I was like 28. And I thought I got a new doctor, and she was like, she can't tell you that. If you want to get whatever you wanted it for a day, they have to give it to you, So she recommended the doctor that said I couldn't get the IUD, recommended I try the ring. Hated it. It's just, that was probably the worst experience I've had in my life with I only had 2 birth controls in my life. But when I tried that birth control, I only chose it because they said that the hormone levels in it were similar to the patch. Instead, it just goes, you insert it so it doesn't like mess up your skin. So I thought, I'll try it. And when I got on it, I bled for about almost a month, just straight on that. My body would not regulate with that birth control. So I went back to the patch. And it stopped the bleeding. So, I was really happy about that. And it was just messing up my life. It had to go. It was just messing up my life. It was just because at that point my period was really sporadic. It was like, oh, it's not coming on every month. It's coming on every 2 weeks. It's coming on every, this many, and then it would be on for like 28 days. And I'm like, that makes no sense. So, and I'm already anemic because I have a heavy period. So cut to, I'm 27, 28. I want to say I'm about to turn 28. And I was having some symptoms with my body. Like my period was getting heavier. I was clotting way more, to the point where it was like a gushy period. I'm sorry, y'all. This is, it's over here. It was a gushy period, but it was still 7 days. Like I never had a short period. I always had a normal 7 day. I don't know if that's normal, but normal for me, 7 days, period. So I was like, okay, well, my period getting really heavy. And then it got to the point where I started like not feeling good physically. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Like I felt like it was just someone sitting on my chest all the time, and I just felt really full, really, really full. And I couldn't eat a lot. So this caused me to cut my portions down to like, I would eat like a half of something. Like it was just, man, I just felt like I couldn't breathe. I felt like I couldn't like sit up, and and I was having a lot of pain. And I ended up losing 30 pounds. I ended up losing 30 pounds. So I went back down to I went from 193 to like 160 again. I ended up losing a lot of weight because I couldn't eat a lot. And so finally I started going to the doctor about it, because on top of that I started having panic attacks. Because I couldn't breathe. And they did all kinds of like scans on me. They were checking my gallbladder, my appendix, stuff like that. They were checking. They were like, we couldn't find nothing wrong. I probably went to the hospital about like 9 times in like a span of like a year, because I just couldn't figure out what was going on. Okay. So I couldn't figure out what was going on. And then finally, I went to another doctor. I went to maybe like 3 hospitals at the time. But then I ended up going to a hospital in Philadelphia. Here, I live in Philadelphia, called Roxborough. And I went there, and I finally saw a black doctor, a black woman. And she said, have you been checked for fibroids? And I was like, I don't know what they are. I didn't know what they were at the time. And she was like, okay, we're going to check you for fibroids. And lo and behold, they found fibroids. And that was the reason why I was feeling so full. And like I was feeling like I couldn't breathe and stuff like that. And at the time I had 3 fibroids, and I believe the biggest one was about the size of a baseball. I think he described it as. Like he said it was like a softball size. He said it's about 8 centimeters, I believe. And so I have 3. So imagine, I'm saying it's uterus. I think I have one on top of the uterus. I have one that's pedunculated, means like it has a stem and it's hanging off of the uterus. That's the largest one that I have. And then I have one that's like not in the uterus, but on the muscle, like not in the actual cavity, but in the muscle. I believe that's the smallest one that I have. So at that time, that's the one they were worrying about the most, because they were like, if you get pregnant, that one might be the problem with the baby. I'm sorry, you guys. I guess it's a fire going on. So, okay. So we I hope everybody okay. I'm just saying, but dang. I was really scared, because the first doctor I saw about it, the first thing he said was, surgery. That's the first thing he said, like surgery. And I just felt like they didn't really give me a chance to like even come to terms with it yet. But we'll talk about that. That was a whole adventure. That whole finding out that I had fibroid thing. They had me jumping through hoops. They were like, we don't know what's wrong with you. Your gallbladder is fine. Your appendix is fine. Everything is fine. They never checked me below. They never checked me for anything else below that. I don't know why. As a woman, I feel like they should have checked me there, but they didn't. They had me going to therapy because they told me it was in my head. They was like, oh, you're just having panic attacks and stuff, and go to therapy. And at this time, my soon-to-be husband, we just was having a rough time, because I think he started to believe that as well. Like, hey, maybe it is all in your head. So, I'm like, I'm telling you, there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong. Like, and I felt like, we were just like butting heads with that, because it got to the point where, he got frustrated, because a lot of late nights in the hospital and stuff like that. I think he just got frustrated at a point, like, they're not finding wrong with you. What is wrong with you? And I told him, watch, it's going to be something serious. And lo and behold, it was fibroids. And he apologized. He apologized because he thought that it was just in my head. And I was like, no, I know what I'm talking about. This is not normal. And I think it was just stressing him out. So anyway, at this point, me and him were together for maybe about 5 years. And like 5 or 6 years. And before that, I guess I didn't want to have children. I wasn't very, like, I could see myself having a child, but not really. Like, I just wasn't feeling it. I don't know. I mean, at the time, I didn't know why. And I guess it's the only good thing about the therapy is that I got to explore kind of why I didn't want to have children. Number one, it was because, I'm just afraid of dying during childbirth. I know that's morbid, but that's a possibility. And it's always scared me because I know that people of color don't always get the best care when it comes to conceiving and having children. So that was the number one thing that scared me. Just the whole thing of labor, everything, just like, oh, scary. But really the second reason was I didn't have a good relationship with my father. So therefore, I was afraid that I was going to end up being with somebody like my dad and not know it until the baby was born, if that makes sense. And then, like, I would have to deal with my child going through what I had to go through. And we'll talk about that some other time. If you guys want a video on it, I will make it, because it'll just be really emotional, I know, but it's okay. I need to work through it, and I've been going through it and dealing with it. And so, but at this point, I was 28 years old. At this point, I was 28 years old, and me and my fiance were already together for a while, and I started to see that. I started seeing, like, oh, I can see us having a family and having babies, and I wanted that. At least I thought I wanted it. I wasn't sure until the day that the doctor looked me in my face and told me, you might not be able to get pregnant, sweetie. And I remember just bursting out into tears, and I'm like, why am I crying? Like, do I want kids? Like, I never saw that for myself. And I just like, oh my God, I want children. And I think it was a combination of that and, someone telling you that an option, you don't have the option. You don't, it's just a no. It's just a no. You don't have the option to try or whatever. So he said, well, you probably won't be able to conceive unless you get this surgery. So he wanted me to get IFV, or what's it called? I forget what it's called, but it's when they go into the leg, the artery in the leg, and they block off the fibroids with these little alcohol beads, and they'll die. They won't get any blood supply, and they'll die. So I was sent to the radiologist. We did that, and the radiologist was like, how old are you? Like, you're young, right? He was like, you're too young for this surgery. Usually women get this in their 40s or 50s when they're done having their children. If you get this surgery, you will be less fertile, and I just don't recommend it for you. So it was kind of weird because him and the doctor were like butting heads on this. It was like, you ever see like movies when they be like, mom said she's mad at you, and dad be like, well, tell mom. Like, it was like that. Like, it was just like I was the messenger between those two. So I'm guessing they didn't like each other at some point. But so after that, he said, okay, well, I recommend the mastectomy or whatever. I'm gonna go in there with the little robots and cut them out. And but I don't go by the first doctor's diagnosis. I never do that. So I went. He pulled me and my fiance in at the time. We wasn't engaged yet, almost. And he asked me about what we want to do. We want to have children, and we was like, yeah, we want to have children. And he said, well, I think you guys should get started now, because if it might take you a while to conceive. And he was like, so I think you should get started now. But we wasn't really thinking that far ahead, because in my mind, I wanted to be married first. I know that's not ideal for everybody, but that's just what I wanted, and that's what he wanted. But lo and behold, it just didn't happen that way. And so I told him we weren't married yet. He was like, well, you better get started. He was like, you better get started and have this and get married now. And we just didn't. It took us 2 more years even for him to pop the question. So at 30, we got engaged. But when we started planning for that, at that point, at 28, I decided I'm over the birth control. I got off of it because, number one, it was making me, I don't want to say crazy, but it was just, I wasn't myself. I started getting mood swings, and I was just mean to the point where my fiance was like, I just want my girlfriend back. Like, I don't know what's going on with you. Please, if you need to get off the birth control, just get off of it. Please, if that's what you want. Like, I just do it, because you are a different person now, and you're just so mean, and we're fighting a lot. And I know a lot of it was me, because I was so irritable, and I was just, it was that on top of the panic attacks, and it just was a lot. it was a lot. Dealing with the fibroids, I was just stressed, okay? So we fought a lot. So I stopped birth control. And then in turned 30, we got engaged. We started planning our wedding and everything. And so we was like, hey, yeah, we're going to get married. And then last year, I actually became pregnant. I don't know. I mean, I don't know why we were so surprised. Like, we were actively trying. I mean, not actively trying. We just like, we'll see what happens.